Hey everyone, Kane from VividChim here, and today we're doing a bit of a different style of video. We're very much doing an unscripted video instead of my usual how bad can it be scripts, and there's a couple of reasons for that. I will get into them a little bit later though. Firstly, I want to bring up why that you're seeing Star Wars Battlefront II footage on your screen right now instead of the game that's in the title, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Primarily, and reason one, is that we are nearly 3 years removed from the release of Star Wars Battlefront II. Star Wars Battlefront II came out in November of 2017, the 17th of November to be exact. It seems like a long time ago now, given how slow 2020 is feeling, but I assure you that is true. And when it launched, it got a lot of flack, and rightly so, due to its unusual and predatory monetization scheme, which encouraged the use of buying loot boxes to get game-changing perks to better your character, and you could buy those with a premium currency to speed up the process of earning them. It was a whole mess, and is basically the flag bearer of predatory business tactics in video games, and I feel like if that didn't happen, we wouldn't see the video game industry for what it is today, and this stuff would have just kept getting worse and worse. We probably wouldn't have seen the heavy scrutiny on the video games industry looking into things like video game addiction, which was probably a positive outcome to come out of this, to be honest, though Fortnite also played a helping hand in that. But we definitely wouldn't have seen the looks into gambling and the predatory tactics of loot boxes in general. And the reason we're talking about that, and by the way, the game's improved a lot since then, I should probably point that out. It's a fantastic game, definitely worth checking it out. It's currently free on PS Plus, so if you have that, definitely worth picking it up. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun getting the footage that you're seeing right now. The reason I mention this in this video that has nothing to do with this game is quite simply that less than 3 years later, we appear to be in a scenario where Capcom have come along and have learnt nothing. I played a little bit of Resident Evil Resistance as I'm going through all of the Resident Evil games right now, and you're probably wondering why this isn't a how bad can it be, and the simple answer is that I didn't play enough of this game. I played about maybe close to 3 hours of this game in total, which is around half of what I do these days on my lower end playthroughs of a game. If the game is quite short or it's just so bad that I can't finish it, I usually still try to get around 6 hours in, maybe even 7 at a minimum. I got 3 on this game, and even less than that, simply because this game sucks. It's really terrible. And I didn't want to do a script. I didn't want to stretch out a how bad can it be script to try and talk about how, oh well, you know, it's only bad in certain areas, but here's some of the positives, because quite frankly, in my opinion, there are no positives to this game, and we're going to be discussing why. But we're gonna discuss the elephant in the room first, which is it's somehow, after dealing with Battlefront II on EA's side of things, Capcom have seemingly learned that we can make money from this, so we're gonna make money off of this. And it's reflected quite a lot in Resident Evil Resistance, and they do have some aspects which have seemingly learned from Battlefront II, though not in the right direction. But instead of going out of their way and saying, oh hey, we probably shouldn't do this, the gamers, the audience that we make these games for, they don't like these tactics. Instead, they've gone, well, let's do these tactics anyway, but let's kind of disguise them as a non-predatory version, so people will somehow stalwartly defend us on social media, even though we're being a piece of shit about it. And somehow this has worked, because I've seen fuck all in terms of scrutiny for Resident Evil Resistance. Now, it's probably because no one plays the game. A player base, last I checked, of near 500 people in total, I think. It's a very small player base. Like about 20 more people than Resident Evil 4 did when I looked at it. But honestly, I don't understand how they've gotten away with this. It's the game that comes with Resident Evil 3, and I think it kind of dragged down what Resident Evil 3 could have been because of that, because they probably knew no one was going to buy it on its own, quite frankly. It's a game that you can get perks from loot boxes, a very familiar scenario to Star Wars Battlefront 2, but there are some key differences that they've seemingly learned. There is no premium currency in this game. There is only RP, and I can't remember what they call RP. I think it's reward points in this, I want to say. But yeah, they have RP, which you earn through games, and then you use them to buy their tiered loot boxes. And yes, they are tiered loot boxes, some with low tier cards, one with a mid tier card, and one with the high end perk cards, both of which have a survivor and mastermind variant. And by the way, they literally have an achievement in this game called pay to win, so they're fucking aware of it, and yet they're still doing it. And I've had people be like, oh, explain how this is pay to win, and it's ridiculous how I have to explain this, because it all comes down to a little item they sell in their store called the RP Booster. And an RP Booster is essentially an additional item that you can buy, you can activate it before going into a game, and somehow it boosts your RP, and people don't see a problem with this? I have no idea how people don't see a problem with this. So you can buy them in packs of 3, packs of 10, and packs of 50. The pack of 50 costing £25 in the UK, or £24.99 to be exact. And what they do is they give you an RP boost, which allows you to get the loot boxes quicker, which is quite literally what pay to win is. And instead of doing it as a premium currency, you do still have to earn that RP. However, this comes at the expense of the gameplay, essentially. Because as a new player playing this game, and this was the exact issue that Battlefront had for the longest time, is you'd find that you'd be matched up against people who are at the higher end of the spectrum in terms of the levels and their perks. You'd be immediately matched up with them. You'd immediately get spammed within the first room if you're playing as a survivor, or if you're playing as a mastermind, you'll just be completely hopeless as they exploit the shit out of your camera angles, shoot your cameras out, and then one-shot everything you have. And I've heard rumours that there's hackers and cheaters in this game as well. I couldn't tell, because the amount of high-tier shit people had anyway, it didn't really make much of a difference to me if they were hacking or not, quite frankly. If it was the same fucking experience either way. But yes, we had a bunch of people just spamming high tier stuff, and you just have to sit there like a mug for a while, honestly, whilst this all happens, and you get maybe about 600 RP per game because you don't get very far in. And that happens about 9 out of 10 games. Sometimes you'll get something which allows you to get a bit more, but 9 out of 10 times, that is what will happen, from my experience. Then, if you get the RP booster on for that game, you can earn up to double that for the exact same amount of time, it seems. I would earn close to 1,200 instead of 600, essentially doubling the speed at which I can get one of these loot boxes to get high tier gear, to essentially allow me to even stand a chance. It's a game that's seemingly designed in a way to encourage you to buy these RP boosters with real money to actually stand a goddamn chance. And I don't understand how people haven't caught on to this, because it's blatantly obvious that this is what they're trying to do. I've had a comment on my Resident Evil 3 review, which you can watch by the way, saying this is the cash grab game, that Resident Evil 3 was the cash grab game. And whilst I can certainly see an argument for that being the cash grab game, especially so close after the release and success of 2, to me this is the cash grab game. This is the one that's after the money, whereas the other one was like, oh, I want to do the art, and their dad was like, no, you must make money. The fact that you have to get perks out of loot boxes anyway is ridiculous, and I believe I worked it out as something like, without the RP booster, it can take maybe like 20 odd games to get a high tier loot box, and that's if you just go straight to the high tier loot box, because let's face it, why wouldn't you? If they're tiered loot boxes, why wouldn't you just go for the best one to get the best gear? That's called common sense, really. It is a ridiculous system, and I can't believe they haven't learned. They haven't learned. After all these years of people openly criticizing this kind of shit in a video game, they haven't learned. They're still doing this after so long. And whilst it's not as bad as it was back then, because there are certain elements that have changed to make it a bit better, for example, you still have to earn the RP, it will still take a little while to get there, and on top of that, they have daily missions, most of which you can't complete, by the way, simply because you can't play the fucking game without these. It baffles me. It genuinely baffles me how they've gotten away with this and how people don't care. And it's, quite frankly, it's a miserable experience overall, but this is the kind of like the knife to the heart kind of thing, because I can talk about all day about how the game is bad. Like, for example, playing as a survivor is almost needlessly complex. They tried to bring in the puzzles of a Resident Evil game to make it more of a Resident Evil experience, but quite frankly, it isn't. It doesn't feel like one at all, other than your perspective and some of the enemies you fight. But like, oh, it's like, oh, there's a puzzle lock, you know, go get some puzzle pieces, open the door, get to the next area, which is, haha, very funny, yeah, I get it, you know, that's how Resident Evil works, that's the logic of their world, but it's never fun, because you're just being spammed constantly by high-tier enemies that wouldn't make sense, you know what I mean? It's so weird. It's the first asymmetric game, and now I've been very open that I don't like asymmetric games in general. I think most of them are terrible that I've played, including Evolve, Friday the 13th, and Predator Hunting Grounds. I played all 3 of those, as well as Dead by Daylight. The other 3 sucked. Dead by Daylight was good, but it's the only one I've ever played where playing on either side is terrible. There's usually one side which is better than the other. In this game, though, you shouldn't play as either of them, because they both suck. They're both really boring to play, and it's terrible. It's quite frankly terrible. I sat there and I was like, oh, let's play as the survivor, because, you know, went in with a Dead by Daylight mentality of, oh, I kind of prefer playing as the survivor, so I went in there as the survivor, and it was an experience where I couldn't do anything because I was just getting killed all the time because they were just spamming items in the first room. And I was like, well, that kind of sucks. Let's go into Mastermind. Mastermind's even worse. And don't get me started on how this plays on a keyboard and mouse, by the way. This is a PC game that you can get on Steam by buying Resident Evil 3. It is the worst keyboard and mouse support I've ever seen, to the point of the tutorial, which by the way is trash, it doesn't tell you anything, but it doesn't work. At one point during the tutorial, it's like, hey, use your like secret bioweapon, and it's like you can play as Nemesis or a Tyrant or whatever, and yeah, you straight up can't place one. You just can't place one because it won't let you do it on a keyboard. I tried every single button on my keyboard, none of them worked. I had to get a controller just to play this fucking game, and that shouldn't be a thing. This is a full release that comes with another game. Like, they're both tied on the one AAA price tag, despite neither of them really being worth it, and for some reason, they didn't even have the fucking time to put in actual keyboard and mouse support because they were too busy fucking adding in microtransactions. It's a load of bollocks, that's what it is. I can't believe it, but at the same time I absolutely can, because of course a video game company's gonna try this shit again because there's money involved. What I'm basically trying to say is that even if you want to play Resident Evil 3, because Resident Evil 3 is a good game, it's really good. If you want to play the Resident Evil 3 remake and you get this game, don't install this game. It's terrible from the ground up. You can barely play it on a keyboard and mouse. Genuinely, and I say this with my hand held up even though you can't see me right now, this is the worst Resident Evil experience I've had so far, and that includes Code Veronica, which I hated to my core. This is worse, because at least Code Veronica was a Resident Evil game that didn't pull anything shitty on. It was just old as fuck. This is already fucking miserable, and then they have a bunch of scummy tactics on top of it. I have no time for this game. Capcom should absolutely be ashamed of themselves. Do not buy it. Go buy something else. If you're gonna buy RE3, buy RE3 and then fucking, I don't know, uninstall and hide this from your library forever. Though you won't get the value that RE3 is going for, because it's not worth the AAA price tag, at least you'll get one good game and then you can just ignore this one and lock it in your video game basement forever. So thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye, everyone.